This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, welcome back. So we are in day 11 session. As I said, we are achieving the concept of abstraction in Java using two principles or else using two concepts. One is abstract class, another one is interface. Second one is what? Interface. Okay, so abstract class, we already had a discussion in my previous session. Now we need to understand what do you mean by interface. So what do you mean by interface? In case of abstract class, we may have both the defined methods and as well as what undefined method. But in case of interface is a constructor, okay, or else interface is a collection of only abstract methods. Only abstract methods, meaning that only unimplemented methods. Okay, there is no way of defining the methods inside the interface before JDK 1.8. From JDK 1.8 features, we can also define the methods, but that is for some other purpose. Okay, so that I will tell you later. But as of now, try to understand what do you mean by interface? Like how exactly we define the class, in the same manner we can define the interface. Like how exactly we can define the class, in the same manner there is a one more construct, that is what? Interface. You can define the interface also. But inside the class, we usually define the methods, meaning that you are providing both method heading and as well as what method logic. But in case of interface, only we are going to like what declare the abstract methods. That one thing you need to understand. Okay, so basically, interface is used to provide the or else to declare specifications. Specifications means what kind of methods you are going to use. You just declare the methods, that's it. Who will provide the implementation? Who wants to like what provide the logic for this interface? Obviously they are going to take these methods from this interface, okay, and accordingly based on their requirement they will give their own logic itself. Okay, in abstract class, like how exactly we are taking the properties from the abstract class, like how exactly we are defining the logic inside the implementation class. In the same manner, we supposed to take the interface abstract methods into a class, and as well as we have to define it. We have to define the logic itself. So mainly using interface, obviously, as I said, we are getting security. Like whatever the advantages I told you with abstraction, all those advantages we can achieve. Majorly security. Next one is maintenance. Okay, maintenance and something like enhancements. Okay, all these are will become very easy, especially through these concepts. Right, like you may ask one question: how can we define the interface? So do we have any syntax is there to define the interface? Yes, we have a syntax. So using interface followed by interface name, and you have to like what declare like this, open it and then close it. Inside this only we are going to declare the methods. There is no concept of defining the methods, only we are just declaring the methods. Declaring means what? You can expect only method heading, there is no method body. In this way we are going to define the interface. For example, we'll try to like what define one interface. Okay, free Java sessions under SRC. So com.jsc.abstraction. So far, right click on this package, new, and then you are taking the class. But now I'm taking the interface. For example, if I'm taking I1 as my interface. Okay, how can you define the interface? Tell me. Right click here, new, take the interface, give the name, and then click on the finish. What was the interface name I gave? I1. This interface belongs to this particular package. And inside my interface, I'm going to like what just declare the methods public void m1 or else assume public void some int x comma int y. Let me save this. I'm not providing the logic, sir. I'm not providing the logic. I'm just declaring the method. Okay, declaring the method is something like only we are expecting the method heading only. There is no logic here itself. That logic, whoever wanted to like what provide the logic, they used to take this method into that class, and there itself they are going to provide. For one interface, how many logics, how many implementation classes you can define? As many as you want, you can define. Okay, just wait. Okay. So for an interface, n number of implementation classes we can define. So here the major challenge is from one class to another class, we can easily take the methods by using extends keyword. But here, I suppose to like what, if you wanted to provide the logic for this sum method, you should take this property from interface to class. Question is, how can we take the properties? How can we bring the properties from interface to class? From interface to class. So what is the answer? So usually if it is a class to class, we are using extends. But from interface to class, if you wanted to like what bring the properties, we are going to use one reserved Java keyword, that is what implements. Okay, answer is what? Using implements keyword. Using implements keyword, we can bring the properties from interface to class. Why we are bringing the properties from interface to class? Because inside the interface we are having only method heading. To provide the logic, you have to like what bring this property from interface to class, and there you are providing the logic. Okay, let me try to like what define the class for this interface. New, take the class here. Any name you can give. For example, test4 I am giving. Okay, test4 is the class which is implementing from interface. See here, there is a part. Test4 is the class. I am just trying to define this class implementing from one interface. What is that interface? What is that interface? I1, right? So that you can define, that you can click on this. See here. Here in the interfaces tab is there. Na? If you click on this add, if you type this I1 and then enter, that's it. Automatically when I clicked on this finish, automatically this entire thing is. See here, implements I1. All this stuff is going to be generated. If you can do like what manually also. How can you do manually? See here. Let me try to like what delete all these things. If this is the class, since I need to give the logic for this sum method which you declared inside the I1. Okay. First you have to like what take this property from I1 to test4. So you have to like what use implements I1. Save it. Whenever you are defining like this, since I1 contains abstract method, obviously test4 class also is expecting the abstract. If you are using abstract keyword, then the error is gone. I'm making this one as, but for this reason I am not defining this class. To provide the logic, I am defining here. To provide the logic for this I1 abstract method, I am defining this class. So that is the reason you have to like what provide the logic for this sum method. You have to take the same method name and you have to like what provide the logic. What logic you want to provide? System.out.println. Now, okay, sum is plus of x plus y. Save it. This is the logic. I1.java test4. See, I1 is the interface. Test4 is what? Implementation class. Implementation class. Okay. Since I'm going to define the main method here itself, you can consider this implementation class also as what? Business logic class. Sorry, execution logic class. How can you say it is an execution logic class? In which class you are defining the main method? Obviously, that class will become what? Execution logic class. That is my point. Since I1 obj equals to new I1, you can't create the object. Like for how exactly abstract class we are not able to create the object. In the same manner, for an interface also you can't create the object. For an interface also you can't create the object. You can't instantiate. If you keep the cursor in this, cannot instantiate the type I1. Cannot instantiate the type I1. Why? Because of inside the I1 we have only method declarations are there. If you are trying to like what invoke this M1 method, since I1 does not have some method, what it will give you? That is the reason at design level only they are restricting this object creation for both interface and as well as what abstract class. So creating the object is nothing but creating the object of its interface is nothing but creating the object of its implementation class. So anyhow, we are already aware of this runtime polymorphism, storing the creating the child class object and storing in the parent class reference variable. Here my parent class is not a class, my parent one is what? Interface. Still we can store the child class object inside the parent reference variable. Now if I'm calling obj.sum method, passing 2 and then 3, then obviously it will work out. When I try to run this, you will get this sum. In the same manner, not only here, this test4 class is providing the logic for this sum method as the addition. If you want to provide the logic for the both for the same sum method as the subtraction, you can define one more logic also, one more class. For example, new, take the class, define the test5, and same add I1 is the interface. When I clicked on the finisher, implements I1. Here you can give another logic like this. As many logics as you want, you can provide subtraction plus of x minus y. Okay, now here if I'm defining the main method, now I1 obj equals to new. If I'm giving test4, it will give you the sum. If I'm giving you the test5, it will give you the subtraction, like that. Obj.sum of 5 comma 4. Obj.sum of 5 comma 4. Right, save it, and when I try to run this, you will get the subtraction now. Since you created the object for test5, not test4. Test4 implementation logic is giving you the addition. Test5 implementation class logic is giving you the subtraction. That is the reason. Okay, like this, for single interface, how many implementations you can define? As many as we want based on the requirement. We don't have any limitation is there. Obviously, we can define so many implementation classes. So that is the reason. Usually, when should you go for keeping the methods inside the interface? If those methods are very much common for multiple classes with the different logics, then it is better to keep the abstract method inside an interface, so that people will take that common method and based on their own requirement, they will provide the logic. Based on their own requirement, they will provide their logic. Here, few more points I wanted to tell you. So, extends keyword we are going to use to inherit the properties from class to class or interface to interface. Simply, I can call it as what? Homogeneous. You can use the extends Java resort keyword to take the properties from either class to class or interface to interface also you can use, because of it is homogeneous. Why we are using implements keyword? Okay, to take the properties from where to where? Interface to class, to provide the logic. People are asking, is it possible to take the properties from class to interface? Sir, already class has some kind of logic is there, some defined things are. Interface, 100% interface does not have any defined methods. Interface always contains what? Undefined methods only. So from class to interface, if you are trying to take the properties, that means you are making defined things as undefined things. To make defined things as undefined things, we no need to become a Java developer. So that is the reason always we are using implements keyword to take the properties from interface to class only. Why? Because whatever the undefined things are available inside an interface, for those undefined things we are providing the logics inside the implementation class, as like how exactly we did just now. I hope you got the clarity, right? Right. Let me copy these backup programs. Okay. So on top of the interface, this is the small demonstration, i1.java. Okay. Test3.java. Test3 is one implementation class. Okay. Since to test4 is one implementation class, test5 also is one implementation class. As I said, as many implementation classes as you want, you can define based on the requirement. We don't have any limitation. Certain limitation is not there. Okay, but we can't create the object for an interface. We can create the object of its implementation classes. Test5.java, right? So that is all about what the interface basic demo program. Okay, and one use case we will see. This is also something like same. But before that use case, I will try to make you understand few more points. For example, inside the i1.java, for example, we have like something like public void multiplication method is also there, assume into I save it. Okay, immediately we are getting the errors in test 4 and then test 5. Why we are getting the errors? See whether you are observing or not. Test 4 and then test 5 we are getting the error because test 4 is implementing from I1, but you are providing the logic for only some method. But logically multiplication method is also available as an undefined method. If you are defining the class which is implementing the I1, this implementation class is expecting the definitions for both the, okay, for both sum method and as well as what multiplication method. Since you are not providing any definition for multiplication method, immediately it is giving you the error saying that if you want to provide the logic, add that unimplemented method to provide the logic. Otherwise this class also will become what? Abstract class. If this is an abstract class, can we create the object for this? We can't create the object. So ultimately my point is what? My point is what? If we take the properties from interface to class, okay, we have to provide the logic. We have to provide the logic for each and every abstract method. Otherwise what will happen? The implementation class also will become, the implementation class also will become as abstract class. I hope you understand why it is why it will become as the abstract class. Okay. So that point you need to understand. And one more point you need to understand here. Yeah, let me remove this. Okay, otherwise keep it like this. Uh, keep it like this. Testify implements I1, right? Okay. Okay, let me try to like what remove it. The moment I am removing, these errors are gone. Okay. So now I have I1 is there, assume. I'm going to like what define one more interface, assume. New, define one more interface. I2 interface I am defining. Inside the I2 interface, public void mul int x comma int y. Right, sir? So we have how many interfaces are there? I1 interface is there, I2 interface is there. Now test 4 and then test 5 are the implementation classes for I1 only. But what is my requirement? I wanted to provide the logic for both the sum method and as well as what multiplication method. But multiplication method belongs to I1 interface or I2 interface. I2 interface. Ante sum method belongs to, come on please. Sum method belongs to what? Sum method belongs to I1 interface. Come on. I1 interface. Multiplication method belongs to I2 interface. But now I have a class test 4 and then test 5 implements I1. If you are writing like this, what do you mean by this? This test 4 is the child one and I1 is the parent one. So one parent class, one parent, one child. It is a simple inheritance. Am I able to like what write I1 comma I2? Is this possible to write like this? Meaning that you are trying to like what? You are trying to like what? Maintaining two parents, one child. So multiple parents, more than one parent and one child class. That is what concept, tell me? Multiple inheritance. I said very clearly while I was discussing about inheritance, multiple inheritance is not possible through the concept of classes because using extends keyword, we are able to inherit the, we are able to take the properties from one class to one class, single class to single class. If you are trying to define or derive the class from more than one parent class, immediately you will get the compile time error. At design level only they restricted. But now see here implements I1 comma I2 also I am maintaining. Immediately I am getting the error. Why? Because of you are not providing the logic for this mul method. So what I am doing, if I click on this add unimplemented methods, immediately that error is gone. So meaning that so implement, we can define this class implementing from more than one interface or not? Yes, that is also one more note point. So we can define the implementation class, okay, by implementing from more than one interface, since since Java supports multiple inheritance, okay, through the concept of come on please, through the concept of interface, through the concept of what? Interface. That is what you need to understand. Yes, here few issues are there, but those issues also we can resolve it by using default methods, which was introduced in the diamond problem issue actually occurred when the I1 and I2 has same methods. That issue also we can resolve it by using default methods of Java 1.8 features that I'll tell you when the concept will come into the picture. I'm not making this as much complex right now, but hope you understand. Using implements keyword, you are able to define the class by implementing from more than one interface also. It is fine, it is possible. All right, so here I'm providing the logic system.out.println multiplication plus of x into y. So in this way we are able to like what define the mul method. Okay, now my test4 is the implementation class implementing from not only I1, both I1 comma I2, and accordingly I am providing the logics for both sum and as well as what multiplication method. And after that you create the object obj.mul also you can access. Why I am not getting this mul? Okay, because why I am not getting this mul? Yes, very important point. Obj is the reference variable, sir. Obj is the reference variable of I1 type. But inside the I1, I have what? Inside the I1, I have what? Sum. So that is the reason, since inside my test4, obj is of I1 type, control goes to I1, and then it will look for the multiplication method, but that was not there. That was available inside the I2. Okay, the same concept. If I am changing to like what I2, immediately we are getting the error in the sum method. So this time we are not getting the issue with respect to multiplication method, because of obj is of I2 type, where I2 contains multiplication method. So then we are not getting the error. So how can we resolve this issue? Simply you can maintain this test4 obj. So if it is a test4, since test4 contains both sum method and as well as what multiplication method, using this object you are able to like what access both the sum and as well as what multiplication methods. Yes or no? This is one case. If you wanted to like what use the same approach, what we have here, make it like I1 obj1, I1 obj1. Okay, and after that, okay, you are going to like what define I2 obj2 equals to, again try to like what create the test4 object. Okay, and here the same thing, control x, control v. Okay, obj2, this is also will work out. But two times unnecessarily, why we supposed to like why we need to like what create the object? So that is not at all. It's not the recommended process. Okay, it's not a good programming practice. So that is why if this is the approach, you have to like what use the child class object test4 obj equals to new test4. Okay, and then you just create the object and then call the since obj contains both sum method and as well as multiplication method, happily you can call it. Okay, so this is one way. Here I'm just keeping it in the comment. If I just run this application, you just check it whether it is giving you the sum and as well as what multiplication. And this is one way, sir. And this is one way. And we do have one more way is there. I wanted to like what store my child class object inside the parent reference variable only. Okay, but with that parent reference variable, I wanted to access both sum method and as well as what multiplication method. Sir, if that is the case, your I2 is the interface. If I am calling obj dot sum, you are not getting, because of I2 has only what multiplication method. I1 has only sum method. Now I wanted to take this I1 property into I2. How can you do this? Come on, please. So public interface I2. Here am I using what extends I1? If you are using extends I1, so then I2 will become what? Sub interface or child interface. So ultimately my I2 interface contains right now how many methods? One is multiplication method available physically, and another one is logically existed, that is coming from I1. So I already told you, using extends keyword we can take the properties from either class to class or interface to interface. This is also known as what? Interface inheritance. We are trying to bring the property, some property from I1 interface. So that is the reason my interface I2 contains both the methods. So two methods are there. Now come to the implementation class. Now happily obj.sum, okay, 3, 4, obj.multiplication. Now both are coming. You see, we are not getting any error. Previously we got the error because of that time that was the two interfaces are what independent interfaces. But right now, since I2 is the child interface, with respect to obj of I2 control, your Java compiler will go and then check for this sum method and multiplication method. And at runtime, which class object you have created, that class methods will be executed. Of course, these are the overriding methods. When I try to like what run this, you will get the output like this. Whatever the points I'm telling you, these are very, very important. No doubt at all. Okay. So regarding this interface inheritance and process of implementing, you just understand here. Interface inheritance means what? Interface inheritance means what? It is the process of taking the properties from interface to another interface, or else or parent interface to child interface. Yes. Okay. I1.java. Here we have some method is there, and I2.java. Here we have the multiplication method, but this is the child interface or sub interface. Okay. So as we discussed, so now one implementation class only I'm defining, test4.java. Here, whether you are understanding or not, test4.java this time, you no need to like what use implements I1 comma I2 now. Why? Because of each and every property is available inside the I2 only, na? You can remove it also. If there is no relation in between I1 and then I2, then you can use I1 comma I2. If there is a relation in between I1 and then I2, if I2 is the child interface, you can implement I2 only, because of I1 properties are also will be coming and then available in the I2, na? Okay, so both the ways it's fine. I think since I implemented this before this, it was like that, but I'm just keeping like this only. But to be honest, you no need to like what use I1 comma I2. If you are using I2, that is also enough. Okay, so but using implements keyword, we can define the class implementing from more than one interface also, as we discussed and then we have seen. This is what we need to understand regarding multiple inheritance with respect to interfaces, and as well as what interface inheritance. Okay, so one use case we'll see. It's a simple use case, but try to understand. As I said, usually we are defining these interfaces for specifications, for common things. So for example, take bank is an interface. Bank as an interface. Inside the bank interface, what is the common method? It's a get rate of interest. Okay, but this get rate of interest is the common for each and every bank. So that is the reason make this one as the abstract method. Make this one as the abstract method. Okay, where inside one interface. What is that interface name? Bank. So whether you believe or not, I forgot to tell you one important point. So by default, come on please, by default, interface, okay, methods are public, abstract. Okay, and by default, okay, by default, interface variables are public, static, final. Okay, whether you are explicitly using these keywords or not, it's up to you. Even though if you are using, that won't give you any error. For example, if you are using I1.java, you are using public void sum. You are not using, even though you are just using void sum, that is also fine. Okay, this public abstract is going to be added by the Java compiler when you are defining any method inside an interface. But if it is a class, you have to add this abstract keyword explicitly. Whether you remember or not, if I'm opening test2.java, sorry, test3.java, test1, yeah, test1, see here, abstract is there, you have to use this abstract if it is a class. But if you are defining any undefined methods inside an interface, those methods are by default public abstract. If you want to use public abstract, as you can add it, it's your wish. It won't give you any issue. Even though if you're not adding, those keywords are going to be added by the Java compiler in internal. Okay, that is the reason I'm writing these statements. By default, interface methods are public abstract, and by default, interface variables are public static final. Once you define any variable inside the interface, though from the next time onwards, any manipulations or any changes are not possible, because of by default those variables are what? Public static final. On top of the final properties, we can't make any changes, because of final is something like constant. In Java, we are declaring or defining the constants using final keyword. Okay, so when it comes to like what use case, consider like bank as an interface. Inside this get rate of interest is the abstract method. This is of course public abstract method. Get rate of interest method is giving you the rate of interest. Of course, it is a float or double. Make it double. This is a return type. Of course, you can remove this public abstract, because by default, if you are defining anything inside, any method inside the interface, obviously public abstract is no need to add. That is what I said. So if this is an interface, and this get rate of interest method can be used by how many banks? So many banks. It might be SBI, it might be Punjab National Bank, it might be Citibank, it might be ICICI, anything. As part of their requirement, they will take this method and accordingly they will provide their own logic. If the ICICI bank rate of interest is 5.5, they are going to return 5.5. If the SBI bank rate of interest is something like 2.5, they are going to return 2.5. Logic is going to be different, but what is going to be common? Method name is going to be common. Come on, please. Method name. Come on, please. Method name is common, but what is different? Logic is different. Logic is different from one implementation class to, come on please, from one implementation class to another implementation class. Obviously, it is not going to be fixed. Everybody is having their own logics. Everybody is having their own rule, their own implementation logic. Obviously, it varies from one implementation class to another implementation class. Every bank rate of interest is not the same, sir. It might be same, but what is the method name is common. So then take this property to different implementation classes and accordingly provide their own rate of interest. If you go and then if you opt for any loan, if you are ICICI customer, you are going to be charged as per the ICICI rate of interest. If I am a SBI person, if I went for any loan, if I go for any loan, definitely I am eligible for SBI rate of interest. So accordingly, these things are going to be happening. If there is a common property, if there is a common, it's not a common logic. Logic is going to be valid. Logic supposed to be valid, but there is a common property which can be used by multiple persons. So in that case, instead of defining the logic inside one class, make that method as a abstract method and keep it inside the interface. And whoever want to provide the logic, they will take this common method, and then they will provide their own logic. That is what exactly happening as part of the real world implementation. While you are developing the projects, these things only we have to do, right, sir? We'll see the same example, same use case. Okay, as I said, let me close this. After you got the clarity on top of basic things like how the interface we are defining and all these things. So in the morning, in the earlier sessions also I have told you, whenever you define any Java, when you compile this program, dot class file is going to be generated. So for example, test1.java, when you compile test1.class file will be generated. Test2.java, for each and every class, whenever you compile the Java program, dot class file is going to be generated. But now I don't have here, whether you are observing or not, here these are not the classes. I1 and I2 are the interfaces. But when you compile these interfaces, also dot class files are going to be generated. So my question is very simple. For interfaces, dot class files are generated or not? Dot class files are generated or not? This is only my question. Answer is what? Yes. So if answer is yes, yes, you may ask one question. Can you please show me? Yes. I will open the directory structure, free Java sessions, Java prog, free Java sessions, src, com.jsc. abstraction.i1. I already compiled, but I'm not seeing any dot class files. I think those are available under bin. I think those are available under bin folder, com.jsc.abstraction. Whether you are observing or not, see here, control 3, I1 is there, I2 is there. So here, what is this type, sir? Dot class files. So that means for interface also, dot class files are going to be generated or not? Yes. So note point is, for like a class, For interface also, Java compiler will generate dot class files. So that thing also practically also we have seen just now in the directory by opening the directory architecture. Okay, folder architecture. So coming back to like what use case, I'm going to like what define the interface. What is that interface? Tell me. Bank is the interface. If bank is the interface, I am going to like what define public abstract. Okay, double get rate of interest. See here how I am defining the methods, maintaining the naming convention. What is the naming convention I'm maintaining for the method? First word, first letter should be always small, and rest of the words first letter should be always what capital letter. This is the naming convention which you have to follow while you are defining the methods. As I told you, inside the interface, whatever the methods you are defining, those are by default public abstract. You no need to give explicitly. If you are also giving, that is not at all giving you a problem. Just simply I can remove this, we will see. Okay, this is a method, this is the interface, and this is the method, and this is the common method. Now I wanted to like what provide the logic for ICICI Bank. Okay, let's try to like what define the class new. Sorry, it is not an interface. Under the package new, define the class here ICICI I capital, and this is implementing from which interface? Tell me. Bank interface. So if bank is the interface, implements bank, and you are going to provide the logic. What logic? You just return the rate of interest. That's it. For example, ICICI is providing 6.1. 6.1 is the rate of interest. Assume. Okay, come back to like what one more implementation class, one more bank. For example, Citibank, C capital, B capital. This is the naming convention you have to follow while you are defining the implemented classes or interfaces. Any word first letter should be capital. This is also implementing from which interface? Bank only. Click on the finish. Like this, we can provide as many implementations based on the different banks. Here, Citibank is providing something like 8.5. Assume 8.5. So ICICI Bank is providing 6.1, Citibank is providing 8.5, like this. And now I am going to like what define the execution logic class. What is the execution logic class? For example, make this one as the test 6. Make this one as the test 6. Okay. So execution logic class is just an after define the main methods. That's it. Usually here I'm not able to create the object for the bank, right? Why? Because of bank is an interface, right? Because of bank is an interface. So creating the object for a bank is nothing but creating the object for its implementation classes only. For example, if I am creating the object for ICICI, save it. Why we are getting the error? ICICI. Okay, the class name is ICICI only. There is no bank. So here obj dot get rate of interest is the method which is giving you the return value. Okay, get rate of interest. If you keep this system.out.println enough, okay, let me control X. Okay, what I have to do is ICICI bank rate of interest is plus. Okay, that calling you just do like this. That calling you just maintain here itself. When I try to like what run this, you will get the ICICI bank rate of interest. See here is the 6.1. In the same manner, if I am creating one more object, for example here, bank, okay, bank, Citibank equals to new Citibank, C capital. Don't get confused, sir. Here just it is a variable name, CB. You just give any name. Here this is the implementation class object, and this is the reference variable of parent one. And now system.out.println of Citibank rate of interest is how much we gave? Plus CB dot get rate of interest. Save it. Since this method is returning you something value, so just to print that value on the console, Citibank rate of interest is 8.5, ICICI rate of bank interest is what? 6.1. In this way, in our real world, actually we are just creating the objects directly here in the program itself. But usually, what is happening in the real world, we are going to like what develop two buttons. For example, if this button is what ICICI, assume if this button is ICICI, if this button is something like Citibank. Okay, if customer come and then if they want to like what check their ICICI rate of interest, if somebody will click on this, okay, if somebody will click on this button, ICICI button, which object will be created? ICICI Bank. Okay, if somebody will click on the Citibank button, this object will be created. If this object will be created, corresponding method supposed to be invoked, and accordingly we are getting the corresponding rate of interest, and then that will be displayed on top of the console or the end user screen. So in this way, of course, to implement the buttons and all that stuff, we need to define the user interface screens by using either HTML or something like any other front end technologies. By using that, we are able to define such kind of user interfaces. So this is one use case. Okay, we have to implement the interfaces like this usually. That is the reason when you start to implement any project while you are working on the real world applications, usually we are not going to define the logics inside the classes. We never start our project with defining the classes. We always first we supposed to be ready with the specifications by in the form of interfaces, and after that we will go for what implementation classes. As I said in the concept of method overriding, right now this is an interface. ICICI is implementing from bank and we are providing the logic. For example, if you are removing this public, immediately we are getting the error. I have told you already, while you are overriding or providing the logic newly, you are not allowed to decrease the scope of the visibility. Already the interface default methods type is public. How if you are removing that public, it is making as what default. So when you compare public and then default is the lowest, less access visibility is there. That is the reason while you are overriding or providing the logic newly, you are not allowed to decrease the visibility, scope of the visibility. See here, when you keep the cursor, you will get cannot reduce the, see here, cannot reduce the visibility of the inherited method from bank. So because interface methods are public abstract, if the parent has less access visibility, while you are providing the logic in the child class, you can increase. If it is a private, you can use default or protected or public. If it is a default, you can use protected and then default. If it is a protected, you can use public. But if it is a public, you cannot decrease. This was I already told you in the method overriding concept. So if you're trying to decrease, you will get the compile time error. So this is all about the interface use case. Okay. So one second, let me Control C. All the points, max to max, all the points I am covering. Okay. So just try to refer the sessions one or twice to get the clarity, and accordingly, please try to practice. Then only it will work out. Otherwise, it will become very problematic for you also to practice. ICICI.java. This is my implement. Class name is anything you can give it, sir. Class name is anything you can give it, but relative names usually we are giving. You used to give relative names. That is what I am telling. Citibank.java, control V, and this is the execution logic class, test 6. To just create the object and then accessing. Test 6.java. Okay, so save it. So this is all about what interfaces. This is all about what interface. So with this, we have finished the abstraction OOPS principle also, and later we have one more concept, one more OOP principle, that is what encapsulation. Encapsulation, there is no, actually we don't require any separate, we have already aware actually, but we don't know, that is only the encapsulation. So usually first try to understand encapsulation is the process of wrapping up of or togethering or clubbing, wrapping up of variables and methods into a single unit, okay, by following some steps. Okay, those steps I'll tell you. So this process itself is what we call encapsulation. So you may get one point here. By seeing the definition, you may get one more point. Like this is similarly looks like class definition. While I was explaining also class definition, class is also the collection of variables and then methods. But encapsulation is also, you are saying it is the process of clubbing together variables and then methods. So what do you mean by that? Yes. So sir, to make any Java class as an encapsulated class, as an encapsulated class. Encapsulated class. We have to follow below rules. So usually each variable must be private. Okay, if you are making any variables as private, what we are able to like what achieving here from here, data hiding, meaning that security, because no one able to like what access now. When you are defining any or when you store any data inside a variable, and by making that variable as the private, no one can able to like what access from outside of the class, even though that class belongs to same package. So with this, we are able to like what achieve the concept of what data hiding. That is the reason using encapsulation. What is the advantage? First advantage they are telling. Okay, first advantage is telling data hiding is the major advantage of what encapsulation. How data is going to be hiding? Because of your making the variables as the private. Once you declare the variables as the private, you are not able to access. But definitely from class to class, kind of interaction supposed to be happen. Otherwise, you cannot transfer the data from one class to another class whenever they require. Well, then if that is the case, how they can access, how they can modify. So that is the reason for every variable, we have to maintain both getter methods, and as well as setter methods. This is what we need to maintain. For every variable, we have to maintain both getter methods and as well as what setter methods. So here I am forgetting, maintain both the public getters and public setter methods as well as public setter methods. Make sure these getters and then setter methods are public. Make sure if those methods are public, using these methods we are able to like what manipulate or modify the data, accessing the data we can do from any context. That is the reason specifically I am talking, you have to like what maintain both the public getters and setters for each and every property which you are declaring inside the class. So if you are following these rules, obviously a corresponding class is known as what kind of class? Tell me. Encapsulated class. Here also we are wrapping up of the variables and as well as what methods only, but some rules. By maintaining these private variables and then public setters and getters, I can 100% say yes, it is an encapsulated class. We are able to like what achieve the concept of data hiding. And they don't know like what kind of logic we are defining inside these public setters and getters. They are just calling the methods and that's it. They are just calling the methods and they are able to like what access the data, but they don't know what kind of logic we are writing. We are just giving the chance to like what access and then modify, but what kind of logic we are writing inside this, that is not aware. That is not aware for them who are going to like what invoke these methods. So this point also you please try to keep it in your mind. Okay. So now understand, we'll try to like what handle one encapsulated class so that you will get the clarity. Let me close this. Under com.jsc.abstraction, we are going to like what define the student as the class. So student as the class. Here this is an encap, for example, int stid, string stname. Now two variables are there. Make these two variables are what private. So here private variables I am declaring. Private variables. Okay, private variables. Just observe the process, how exactly we are wrapping these variables and then public setters and getters. So then I can write here, the class is not right now, it's a normal Java class. Once I followed those rules, it will become what encapsulated class. So encapsulated class main advantage is what? Data hiding. Right. So now for each and every variable we supposed to like what maintain setters and getter methods. Public setters and getters. Okay, try to like what maintain public. Okay, setter method for stid. Public void set stid like this. This is the naming convention. Usually all the setter methods are used to start with what? Set only. S should be small. And the variable name is stid and the first letter will become capital because of this is the second word. Set stid, it is accepting int stid. There might be a chance to like what maintain both class level variable and then parameters. If both are same, how can you differentiate? By using this keyword, as we are already aware. This is the setter method. This is the setter method. Setter method is setting the student ID. Okay. And what about getter method? Public int get stid. Okay. And it is returning what? Stid. Whatever the value you are setting, that a student ID, when you call this get stid method, it is returning you what? Integer. Where int is representing the student ID only. So this is the getter method. So you define the setter method and getter method for stid. In the same manner, you have to like define the setter method and then getter method for st name also. You just observe, okay, public void set st name, s should be capital, and this is taking what string st name, and here also both are same. This dot st name we are going to differentiate. Okay, now one more public getter method, which gives you name get stid. Sorry, get get st name, get st name. Here it is returning what? St name. That's it. Save it. Here public address, public setters for each and every property, every variable which you are declaring, private variable which you are declaring. So now I will try to like what define. I hope you understand this encapsulated class. Now I will try to like what define the. So as I said, if you make any Java class as an encapsulated class, we supposed to maintain the private variables just to achieve the concept of data hiding. Once you define this as the private, nobody can able to access. But that is not the solution. So we have to like what provide the alternative also. What is that? Tell me. We have to maintain setter method for the updating the data or for manipulating the data, and getter method to get the data. For each and every property we have to maintain here. So private variables, public setters and getters. Class will become encapsulated class. We are clubbing all together. Okay, we'll try to like what access these things from outside or from any other class. Let me try to like what define the class with the name of test7. Here this is an execution logic class. Define the main method, and now I'm going to like what create the object. Which object you are going to create? Student obj equals to new student. Okay, now system.out.println obj.stid. Sorry, obj.stid. Immediately we are getting the error. When you keep the cursor, the field student.stid is not visible. Why? Because of you made stid and then stname are like private variables, but nobody can able to access. But alternative solution is what? Usually that is not the way. We cannot access the, or we cannot make the data, or we cannot modify the data, or we cannot get the data directly with respect to variables. It is not at all the good standard or good programming practice. If you really wanted to perform any modifications or accessing, you have to like what invoke the setter methods and as well as what getter methods. Since those are public, you can happily access. For example, since you are just declaring the variables, I'm not initializing. Using setter method, I wanted to initialize. Obj dot set stid 100. I'm just setting. Okay, obj dot set stid. So now stid will become student ID will become 100. Obj dot set st name. Okay, for example, Rama. So I am setting a student ID as 100. I am setting student name as Rama. Now you with this you are able to set the data. Now I wanted to access the data. Very simple. System.out.println student ID plus obj dot call the getter method and make it a display. Call the getter method and make it display. System student dot student name plus of obj dot get st name. Just try to like what invoke the methods. See here, using in the test7 we just created the object, and using setter methods we are modifying or setting the data, and using getter methods you are able to like what access the data. When you try to like what run this, you are able to like what got student ID and then student name. This is the when using very important point is, so using encapsulated class or encapsulation, we do have more control on top of data. Okay, if somebody don't want to like what modify, if somebody's requirement is to only access inside that entity class, inside that particular Java class, don't define the setter methods for the student ID. If you are not defining the setter methods for the student ID, they are not able to modify the data. If somebody's requirement is only writing, manipulating the data, you know, if their requirement is not the accessing, just define the setter methods and don't define the getter methods. So in this way, we do have more control on top of the data. As per the requirement, we do have more control. So accordingly, it will be very useful. So in this way, we can understand this encapsulation concept. So for this, I do have two classes. One is encapsulated class, that is student. And to execute this, I am defining test7.java as an execution logic class, test7.java. So in this way, we are able to like what define the encapsulation class. Encapsulation is the important concept. So in many ways, even if you go anywhere, like we are defining the entity classes, we are just following this approach only, just to define the encapsulated class. This is all about what abstraction and as well as what encapsulation. Okay, so that is all about what my today's session. Okay, so we'll see some other concepts in tomorrow's session. Thank you.